There's something a lot of hunters feel right now, but almost nobody talks about it out loud. It's this quiet frustration that finding a place to hunt feels harder than it's ever been. Not just harder, but almost impossible. And you hear it everywhere. I used to have permission there. That farm got leased. Someone else beat me to it. Landowners don't trust hunters anymore. And slowly, a lot of people start to feel like hunting isn't even accessible unless you already own land or can afford thousands of dollars in leases. But the truth is, the problem isn't just one thing. It's not just leasing, it's not just competition, and it's not just land disappearing. It's a mix of things that have been quietly changing for years. So in this video, I want to talk about why access to hunting land feels impossible now and what actually changed. There's a moment I think a lot of hunters have experienced. You find a piece of property that looks perfect. Maybe you drove by it 100 times. Fields, woods, good habitat. The kind of place where you can almost picture a deer stepping out at dusk. So you finally build up the courage to knock on the door. Your heart's beating a little faster than normal. You introduce yourself, explain you're a hunter, and ask if they ever allow anyone to hunt their property. And before you can even finish the sentence, they say no. Sometimes politely, and sometimes not. And you walk back to your truck thinking the same thing a lot of hunters think now. Where is anyone even supposed to hunt anymore? So to understand what's happening today, we first have to talk about what hunting access used to look like, because it wasn't always like this. For a long time, hunting access was built almost entirely on relationships. Not contracts, not apps, not leases, relationships. You knocked on a door, you introduced yourself, you shook someone's hand, and sometimes the answer was no. But sometimes the landowner would say something like, "Sure, just close the gate and stay out of the south field." And that was it. There wasn't paperwork. There wasn't a payment plan. There wasn't competition from 10 other hunters trying to lock the same property down. It was built on something simple: trust. And that trust worked because hunting culture was smaller, slower, and more local. Most hunters lived nearby. Most landowners knew the families who hunted their properties. And if someone messed up, word traveled fast. But over time, that entire system started changing. And one of the biggest things that changed was something most hunters talk about constantly now: leasing. Leasing land for hunting isn't new, but the scale of it today is completely different than what it used to be. What started as a way for landowners to make a little extra money has turned into an entire industry. Now you see properties listed online for thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars per season. And for landowners, it makes sense. If someone offers you guaranteed money for something you used to give away for free, that's hard to turn down. But leasing created something hunting didn't used to have as much of: competition with money behind it. Suddenly, access wasn't just about who asked politely. It became about who could secure the property first, or who could afford it. And once a property gets leased, it usually stays that way, which means every year there are fewer properties available for simple permission hunting. So naturally, hunters start feeling squeezed. But leasing is only part of the story, because even in areas where leasing isn't huge, hunters still struggle to get permission. And that leads to another major shift. Something that's much harder to see, but probably matters even more, is trust. If you talk to enough landowners, you'll start hearing the same concerns over and over again. Hunters leaving gates open, driving where they shouldn't, shooting too close to houses, bringing extra people without asking, or worse, posting the property online and suddenly strangers start showing up. From a landowner's perspective, allowing someone to hunt isn't a small decision. It means letting someone with a weapon onto their property. It means potential liability. It means risk. And unfortunately, it only takes a few bad experiences for a landowner to decide it's just easier to say no to everyone. So over time, many landowners stopped giving permission altogether. not because they hate hunting, but because saying no became simpler than trying to figure out who they could trust. And when trust disappears, access disappears with it. But trust isn't the only thing that changed. Hunting culture itself started shifting too. One of the biggest cultural changes in hunting over the last 20 years has been the rise of media and trophy culture. Now, don't get me wrong, big deer have always existed, and people have always been proud of great harvests. But today, the way hunting is portrayed has changed how people approach it. Social media, TV shows, online scouting, everyone chasing the same big buck properties. Suddenly, land became more valuable for what it could produce, not just for the experience of hunting it. And when that happens, access starts getting guarded. People stop sharing spots. Landowners get flooded with requests. And hunting starts feeling more competitive than communal. Instead of something shared locally, it starts feeling like something everyone is racing for. And when you combine all of these things together, the result is what a lot of hunters feel today. When hunters say access feels impossible now, what they're really feeling is the pressure of multiple changes happening at once. More hunters, more competition, more leases, less trust. And culture often values results more than relationships. So instead of knocking on 1 or 2 doors and eventually finding a place to hunt, now it can feel like you're knocking on 20. And hearing no every time, that frustration is real. And it's why a lot of people quietly stop hunting. Not because they lost interest, but because they lost access. But here's the part I think a lot of people miss. Even though access feels harder now, the core of hunting access hasn't actually changed as much as we think. It still comes down to one thing: trust. Landowners don't want the most skilled hunter. They don't want the hunter with the biggest racks on Instagram. Most of the time, they just want someone respectful, someone reliable, someone who treats the property like it matters. And when hunters rebuild that trust, access can still exist. It just takes more effort than it used to. More conversations, more respect, more responsibility. But the foundation hasn't disappeared. It's just been buried under years of frustration and competition. So when people say access to hunting land is impossible now, I don't think that's entirely true. Harder? Absolutely. Different? Without a doubt. But impossible? Not yet. Because at the end of the day, hunting access was never really about land. It was about people. And if hunters can rebuild trust with landowners, there's still a path forward. It just might look different than it used to. And I'm curious what your experience has been. Do you think hunting access is disappearing? Or do you think the way we approach it has changed? Let me know down in the comments. I read every single one. Thank you guys for watching, and remember, however hunting fits into your life, carry it forward with respect, and I'll see you in the next one.